Hi, my name is Celia Sorhaindo from a small island in the Caribbean called Dominica. Sometimes gets confused with the Dominican Republic. Just to give you a bit of a background, when I was 8 years old in 1976, my family and I migrated to England and I lived there for very many years. Finally managed to come back home to Dominica in 2005 and I have been living there ever since. Just want to say a big thank you to Carleen from the Dranoff to Piano Foundation and Lisa from the Miami Book Fair for this opportunity to share a poem with you and to discuss a little bit about my writing process and about my poetry. I really enjoyed watching the Piano Slam spoken word performance on YouTube and love that creative mix of the classical with the slam poetry and drama. Although I don't mind reading my poetry out loud, and it's a necessary part of the process to hear the words sounded out loud. I'm not a performance poet myself, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for that skill. Performance poetry brings that separate dynamic energy of the physical presence of the poet, their body language and their voice and that energy of the word and the sound and the energy of the audience as well. And I just also admire that additional vulnerability too. The poet is not separated to the listener by space and time, and it's a very different, intimate interaction with instant feedback, which I think adds a whole different dimension. For me, though, my dance and my play, my performance of poetry is on the blank white page. I love wordplay. I love that potential for double meaning when the words are still on the page, the possibility for multiple reader interpretations when the poem hasn't been read out loud, the various paths of meaning that exist before the word is collapsed into a sound, like R-E-A-D can be interpreted as read or read. And I also like that challenge of trying to move the reader to feel various emotions purely by the words on the page. I also really enjoy playing with how the poem looks, the visual aesthetic, the visual layout of the poem on the page, and how that can enhance the various themes of the poem and also add and create additional tension to. I enjoy playing with line breaks, enjambment, punctuation and negative space. So I really have fun with all those various aspects of written poetry. But whether it's read silently or performed, then all poetry needs a reader, needs a listener, and to really alchemize and complete the trinity between poem, poet, and the third person. And I think that also completes the poem, I think, is those elements. In 2017, Dominica was struck by a huge, devastating Category 5 hurricane, Hurricane Maria, the worst in recorded history. Hurricane Maria destroyed lives and land, and really nothing would be the same again after that. And my first chapbook collection, Guaban Sex, explores the complex mix of emotions, of experiences, both during and after the event. The collection is named in recognition of the indigenous Taino people of the Caribbean, one of the first people the colonizers would have encountered when they came to this region. Guaban Sex was the name they gave to the supreme female spiritual entity associated with all natural destructive forces, including hurricanes, and means one whose fury destroys everything. But as well as that destructive side of Guabancegs, she was also seen by the Taino people as the goddess of transformation, of survival, renewal and rebirth. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to choose that name for the collection, because the poems really investigate all those different aspects. Poetry for me personally, both reading and writing it, has always been cathartic and healing, a way to think through complex feelings and emotions, explore difficult questions, express things that cannot easily be said any other way. And after that period of pure survival, after I had some time and was able to get a degree of separation from all that had happened, a degree of distance, these poems came out of me trying to sit with and make sense of everything that had happened during that time, both during and after the hurricane. Not only the trauma of the event, where we saw the best and worst extremes of nature and human nature, but also the unexpected, tender, beautiful moments of love, of joy, of community amidst the chaos and damage. I like to call that collateral beauty. And looking back, you know, surviving that time, surviving the hurricane, looking back now, it's now 3 years since it passed. I can see how much I've grown, how much I learned, how much stronger I became and more self-reliant, surviving that period without electricity, without water, worrying about food and worrying about drinking water. And it actually was a very empowering time. And I hope when people read the poems, they can use it to gain some hope and courage about surviving these really challenging times, surviving this pandemic, and encouraged that we have an amazing resilience, the human spirit, the capacity of the human spirit, the tenacity of the human spirit to survive. I think it's very hopeful. So I'm going to read a poem now from the collection called Ajay Alay. Ajay Alay is a mantra from a Sikh guru and poet called Gobind Singh, and Ajay Alay means invincible and indestructible. In this poem, the speaker is forced to face her own mortality, face the fact that there is nothing she can do about this terrifying, destructive hurricane force which is beating down on our home, face what can be taken away in the blink of an eye of a hurricane. The poem is about fear, is about facing fear, is about courage, faith, what we are prepared to hold on to even at the cost of our life, what we are prepared to face, stay with, and ultimately what we are prepared to let go of and lose. So Ajay Alay. I thought we had seriously prepared for this hurricane, bought the supplies, bagged the important, boarded up openings, but as I sit barefoot, sore, soaked, in rising pool of water, bony back pushing against bulging wooden walls, I realize I have been impressively naive again about the boundaries beyond boxed imagination. the surreal reality which can actually be birthed, a whole nation of unforeseen revelation. This bulging wall force, squeezing water through thread vein cracks in wood, breaking out, breaking in, breaking us, is unimaginable. I shout, hand gesture my husband, let us leave the wall, save ourselves, run for cover downstairs to concrete bathroom. But he has invested so much of his life into all of this, bits of him strewn in and out of our home, that it is more than his life is worth to stop trying to save it now. There are endless, loud cracks, crashes. I see myself lifted, flung, flying across the room, landing headfirst into bookshelves. Imagine this hysterical, poetic ending. I do not know what time is doing, but decide to stay here with him and push against this wall until. Years ago, I had abandoned prayers of Catholic parents and searched for my own resonating words, and lately have been trying out mantras for their sound and effect. So now I push and push, chant and chant, over and over. Ajay alay, aganje aleke. Ajay alay, aganje aleke. Invincible, indestructible, unconquerable, indescribable, the unimaginable, beating down in time with me. Thank you so much for listening. And before I go, I just want to let you know that I will be discussing my poetry collection at the 37th Miami Book Fair, which starts on November the 15th. So I really encourage you to check out their website, miamibookfair.com, and sign up so you can be notified when MBF Online goes live, and to get all the information about the full program of amazing free virtual events. Teachers, really encourage you to get your students to sign up. It promises to be an inspiring and engaging lineup, and not to be missed opportunity for them to listen to some of the best poets writing poetry today, poets such as Jory Graham, Robert Hass, Joy Harjo, Juan Felipe Herrera, Jane Hirschfield, and many others. So that's the Miami Book Fair 2020, starting on November the 15th. You can sign up to be notified at miamibookfair.com. And just finally, my book Waban Sex is available on amazon.com. So if you want to check it out, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you again, and thanks for listening, and I really wish you all the very best with your next show. Thank you.